Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dream Big podcast with Bob Goff and friends. This is your co-host, Scott Schimmel, and welcome back from a long summer break, Bob Goff.
Yeah, it was a fantastic summer. We were up in Canada and rebuilding the lodge, which many of you know burned to the ground. And what a great jumping off point to talk about sustaining belief, because things are going to happen in your life and my life. They'll either symbolically burn down or actually burn down in your life.
Right.
And so what do you do then? Do you just say, well, you know, God doesn't like me, or I've got a bad lot in life, or
it's a
whatever.
bad dream.
Yes,
Right.
or denial to say that didn't happen. It's still there.
Yeah.
But instead to say, okay, so some things happen unexpectedly. And so what are you going to do next? And oftentimes what you do is there's a period of lament, obviously, and sorrow. For Sweet Maria, a lot more sorrow for a longer period of time. And then I just kind of medicate my sorrow by just getting busy. Which is actually worth drilling down on as well, to say, for sustaining belief, that doesn't mean just a flurry of activity. It's moving forward with purpose, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, keeping your eye on the ball, and continuing to move towards that.
Well, like they do in schools. How was your summer break? What were some of the highlights for you guys?
Oh, my summer break started great. I purchased this boat, and because we're the nearest roads, 50 or 100 miles away. And so the only way to get in and out of this place is by boat or a seaplane. They can land in the water. And I bought this boat. It gets delivered in the evening, and it's like a 20-year-old boat, but it's in like really good shape, and it ain't cheap. And I owned that thing for 6 hours because I woke up early the next morning at dawn. It had sunk to the bottom of the inlet.
No way. What? You're kidding.
It was just gone.
Oh my gosh. Where'd it go?
So I have scuba tanks. So I put them on, and I was thinking, I wonder if it sank. And sure enough, there was.
The Titanic has sank.
So sustaining belief, it isn't just like thinking, isn't that terrific?
Yeah.
It's like you just go like rats. I really.
Let me check my insurance policy.
So many alternate endings for how that would work out. But instead, this uninsured boat is at the bottom of the lagoon. And what you need to do is get the thing to the top. And so you need to get busy and figure out how to refloat your boat.
That's
literally, sustaining belief is that. You have a couple things that don't go your way. It's a relationship. It's a job that you wanted. It's an ambition that you had. And the thing sinks at the dock. Yeah. And the crazy part is it wasn't my fault. It was somebody else's fault. But if I made it about the other guy's fault, he'd lose his job and everything. I just decided, you know what? We're going to take it to the spa.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'll get a paper out or something, but it needs pretty much new everything.
Wow.
I think we could salvage the propeller.
Wow.
But we'll just, sustaining belief isn't just being happy-go-lucky and saying whatever. To realize some things are painful, but to move forward very purposefully, to say, actually, here's the consequences for the guy that screwed up. If I were to visit with him about it, and I don't want him to take a hit about it. And here's the consequences to me. I'm going to get a new, everything.
That's like a theme in
But
your life.
I didn't want a new everything. I actually wanted some peace in my life because I've got enough things that have gone awry. But part of sustaining belief is to have enough composure and enough people around you that you can not be distracted by the things that could otherwise be incredibly distracting. You can have a realistic view of what happened, that wasn't what I had in mind, but that you have that so many more things that you're hoping for. And that's these things that God gives us. It's love and hope. They're the two things that will outlast everything else in your life. And if ambitions had handles, those would be the handles. It would be love and hope.
That's great. Well, I thought what we could do would actually be to go back through the Dream Big framework, because we're now in month 6 of
Isn't
this
that crazy?
project called the podcast. And we started off months ago with this idea of declaring what your big ambition is, the idea of setting absurd expectations. We talked a lot about how you don't need permission for that. You just need to go do it.
Yeah, it's the idea of having an absurd expectation, I think, started resonating with people because it's something that we all have in common. We have ambitions.
Yep.
And then to drill down on that to say, what are these ambitions? Because if your ambition is to be nice, that's a terrific ambition. Right. But I would drill down to say, what does nice look like?
Well, I think that's why that word absurd helps ground it. Like, that's not absurd to be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's absurd, though, to give $1 million away. It's absurd to build a lodge for the sake of other people. It's those kinds of things. It actually drives the quality of the ambitions that we have.
Yeah, you could say whether it's big or small, to have this ambition and to just say, you know what, I know it sounds totally nuts because it is totally nuts. Yet, I'm going to move towards that and just see what happens. I'm willing to fail trying.
Yep, which was step 2, explore opportunities. What do I do with this dream? How do I get the dream moving? And as soon as you start going to that, month 3, I think for me was one of my favorite months of conversation. It's about clearing the path, because when you start down the path of your absurd expectations, seeing what's possible, all of a sudden the inner stuff kind of digs up in your life.
Yes, we start every morning out up at the lodge the same way. I get my binoculars out. I'm looking for 2 things. I'm looking for orca whales, and you can spot them because you don't see the whole whale. You just see a little spout, a little mist that's coming when they breach. And so you scan the horizon for orca whales anywhere there. And if they are, then you just go out and see them. Huh. The second thing we look for is deadheads.
What's that?
And back in the 70s, it was like the followers of Grateful Dead. But deadheads are yes, but deadheads are these logs that fall out from the booms, and they get waterlogged, and this 150-foot log, instead of floating on its side on the surface, it's actually sunk down so only the top 6 inches is showing.
Really?
So the problem with a deadhead, if you hit that with a boat, you're sunk.
Right.
The cool part about deadheads are there's a ton of money in cedar in every deadhead. It's a 150-foot log.
Wow.
And cedar costs about $10 a foot.
Oh my gosh.
So
you're fishing.
What I do I look for orcas. That's my winsome. I'm like, is there a big fin out there somewhere? And then I look for deadheads. Huh. And if you find a deadhead, you know you found one because there'll be one seagull sitting on top of it.
Really?
That's the indicator that there's a deadhead there.
Wow.
And so I'll run out in the boat and I'll put a spike in the deadhead and I'll drag it to shore so that no boats hit it and I get all the cedar.
Wow.
It's awesome. So looking for opportunities is knowing why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And to say, actually, I'm looking for some winsome things in my life. I'm also looking for deadheads. It's a safety thing, but it's also a opportunity thing to say, if I could go out and find some of those, there's actually a really beautiful reason to do it.
So we're setting absurd expectations, exploring opportunities. Then we get into the deeper work when call it insecurity, the resistance, ego things, old unresolved issues from my childhood. That's it's the therapeutic inner work. I'm curious for you, when you're up at the lodge, when it's quiet, does that stuff come up for you?
Oh, totally. On the surface, as people experience me, they're like, he's the happy-go-lucky, whatever.
Right.
But I actually have this time of deep reflection and introspection, and I do that a lot in my writing and all that as I'm just musing with ideas. It's a time to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why am I feeling sad right now? Or why am I feeling totally isolated? And if you're willing to plumb the depths on some of those things, that would be falling under this category of clearing the path, understanding why you're feeling what you're feeling, being self-aware. And that self-awareness is going to be the thing that'll set your faith free. It'll launch your relationships because you just have your feet on the ground. You understand why you're dealing with these things, why you're feeling what you're feeling, why you're interacting with people the way that you're interacting with them. And then sometimes kind of giving yourself a little bit of a time out to say, you know what, I just need to chill on that. I don't need to engage that conversation or that issue or that thing because it's becoming a big distraction in my life. Clearing the path means getting rid of the distractions, but you can't get rid of them if you don't understand what they are.
Well, almost like the deadheads. You might see a seagull, you might see 6 inches of something and realize if you look at it, if you explore it, there's another 100 feet of stuff there.
Yeah, the crazy thing about these deadheads, all you see is the seagull. You don't know
Yeah.
the diameter of the log.
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
that'll preach.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you don't know if the thing's 3 feet long or 150 feet long. But once you've identified something that you're looking for, I'm actually looking for this opportunity, then you go out and you find out what you got along the way. And once you find out what you've got, then we've got the makings
Yeah.
of a person that's going to go after an ambition.
Right.
They've identified an ambition. They've looked for an opportunity. They're clearing the path. And what a great segue to the next thing
That's right.
we've spoken about, which is taking action.
Get to work.
Yeah, get busy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
don't make a list,
Right.
make a call.
Yep.
Don't say, wouldn't it be swell if? That's just brain candy. That's fine if you want to bulk up on that.
Right.
But I would say, pass me the Snickers bars. But I would say, let's find some things that'll actually make some sense. So you find an opportunity and then you take action on it to see where will this lead.
Yeah. Rapid feedback, continuous loop. Does this work? Try this, see what happens, see how I feel. That's so much of this Dream Big framework is clarify what you want and then go after it.
Yes, and so if you're listening now and you have an ambition, you feel like you're kind of stalled out on that, take some action. Say, like, who would be
right.
somebody I could write to?
Right. Today.
Who would today, not someday, but like right now. Actually, turn the podcast off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Write the letter.
Stop.
You're done. There's your marching orders. But then don't stop for that. Don't just stare at the mailbox. Make a couple phone calls to just say every odd hour in the day, starting at 7 a.m., 7, 9, 11, or you can go with the prime numbers, whatever you want, but come up with a practice or a pattern that you're going to use every day, and you're going to say, I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to see what comes of it. And what will happen along the way as you're moving towards one ambition, as you're taking action on that, other things will pop up along the way. You have a beautiful ambition, making of Wizard of Oz. They said, we're going to make this beautiful movie, but we're going to be at that transition between black and white and color. And if you remember, I know I'm dating myself, there's the moment when Dorothy lands in Oz and she opens the door and everything goes from black and white to color. And so that's the big moment in cinematography that they introduced, this Technicolor. The crazy part about Dorothy and her ruby red slippers, these iconic slippers, they weren't supposed to be ruby red.
No,
they were
really?
they were supposed to be silver.
Huh.
But in the shooting of the film, they go like, no, we need to show off that we actually have color.
Yeah.
And so they changed them to red. It became the most iconic thing about the film, even a half a century later.
Yep.
And so those will be the things that happen along the way. I'd say write the play, but start acting the part.
Yeah.
Like I say, what I've got in mind is I want to start acting the part of this. It isn't being phony. It's saying I'm going to take action on these ambitions.
And that has a way of almost self-propelling itself, internal momentum, I would say. If you make one call, if you send one email, if you publish one article, all of a sudden more stuff starts coming almost within you. Like it has a little generative quality inside you.
It's crazy. When I started taking action on things in some of these countries in Somalia and Afghanistan and Iraq, I get the craziest calls now, invitations, because people go like, oh, wow, he's the guy that does it. So pick whether you're the guy or gal that decides that these are the ambitions, these are the purposes that I have. This is what I think God has for me to do. Let everybody know about it, and that pretty soon people are going to start tracking you down. And to say, wow, is this something that you would be interested in? Even if that was an opportunity you weren't looking for, you go like, it actually kind of found you. It's the ruby red slippers. And so then you say like, well, let's go ruby red on this and see what will happen.
And then don't be surprised when you're taking action and moving forward to get, this is the fifth part of this framework, to expect setbacks.
Oh,
the lodge is going to burn, the boat's going to sink.
You're going to get your buns handed back to you once or twice. I mean, it's just going to happen.
You're going to get rejected 41 times in your book proposal. Like those are the kinds of stories we were listening to last month.
Yes, you read Abraham Lincoln's, all of his attempts that failed along the way. But you don't need to see these things as like a cue from the divine to stop pursuing this ambition. ambition, you could see that this was a setback along the way. It was a disappointment. And I think that's why eternity is going to last so long. It's going to take us that much time for us to sort out with God. Like, why did that happen? And I'm just not hung up trying to find short, pithy little explanations for big things that have happened in my life, because I feel like it would be less than authentic. I would rather say, you know what, I'm just going to put a question mark by that. I'll circle back to it later, and I'll just trust by the things that I'm reading, the things I'm understanding about my faith, and about what is in Scripture about why these things happen, that stuff will be revealed a little bit later. And I'm not trying to be stuck between now and then.
Well, I think for me, the big dreams I have, the big expectations I have, they don't happen in a month or two. These are years in the making. And so when we get to this month's theme, I think it's probably the most important thing: sustaining belief.
Yes, and instead of walking out with an egg timer, I think God gives us an hourglass.
Right.
And where I want to be like, come on, hurry up. To sustain belief means to be patient, to work on that immense patience that Scripture talks about. To say that these things aren't going to go along my time. The plans that I have are good. And when we built the lodge, we had a great big set of plans, and we decided to make the plans first and then find a spot to build them. That's a lousy way to build.
Whoops. Live and learn.
What we do now is we make the biggest flat spot that we can, and then we make some plans that'll fit that flat spot. Another way of sustaining belief is to say, what I'll do is pursue as many opportunities as I can right now. I know there'll be some setbacks along the way, but I have my eye on the prize. I have this big overarching purpose that I believe is true for my life and that would be worthwhile and lasting. And I'm going to continue to look at the horizon rather than stare at my feet. I'm not going to just look at where I am right now. I'm going to lift your eyes. I remember being in Jerusalem with a friend that was very knowledgeable. And he kept telling me, Bob, lift your eyes. And I kept on looking down at where I was at the cobblestones. And all that was just very beautiful. And he kept tapping me on the shoulders, Bob, lift your eyes.
That's great. That's great. I started a company 7 years ago. I never thought it would be an overnight success, but year 2, year 3, I kept getting these questions from friends. So how's it going? What's the success you've had so far? And I would wrestle with that because I had this big dream. I knew what my purpose was, but it's been so hard. So now here I am in year 7, and the nicest, most gracious thing anyone said to me recently was, it's probably going to take at least 10 years before it's really successful. And that was so helpful to me because I feel like, what's wrong with me? How come I haven't been able to scale this or grow this by now? And that's why it's so important to sustain belief. What do I truly believe in? How do I continue to endure something that's so hard? There's so many setbacks, and yet this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do. So how do you sustain belief? Like, what do you do? How do you make that practical?
I think part of it is delighting along the way. I've gone up a couple mountains, and there's these fall summits that you get to because you think that's totally the summit, that ain't the summit. That's just the next place where the horizon disappears. But then when you get up to that, then you see like, oh, actually I have much further to go. So what I've come to expect is that these will be false summits. I'm still delighting on being on the journey. I'm trying to stay on the path, but knowing that the summit experience in a faith community is going to be landing at the feet of Jesus. And everything between now and then isn't going to be a false, like a deceptive summit. It's just that you're going to come to the next mound. And those become waypoints. We've taken a couple trips across the ocean. Well, that was an ambition. I wanted to sail across the seas. And so what you do is you just pick a couple waypoints along the way. Otherwise, you just have, like Long Beach Harbor and Honolulu.
Right.
So you pick a couple waypoints between here and there to aim for. And so to find these shorter little increments, maybe when you're thinking of sustaining beliefs, maybe chunk it up a little bit. You've got a big ambition. It's going to take tireless effort over many, many years. Why don't you just chunk it up and just say, what I'm going to do over the next many, many weeks is this. Or chunk it up further and say the next many, many days or the next few hours. And so sustaining beliefs is having these waypoints along the way. What I'm going to do is I know that's a false summit. I'm not bummed about it. It's just as far as I can see right now. I'm going to get to the top of that. And I'm going to look around and I'm going to find a path forward from there.
That's interesting. There's an author, Seth Godin, and I remember one of the things that he wrote about is he calls it 1,000 true fans. So if you want to change the world and have this big impact, what you don't need to do is have millions of followers, millions of people buy your book. You need 1,000 people that really understand what you're doing, the kinds of people that will show up when you show up. And so that's been a helpful waypoint along the way for me. I don't even have 1,000 true fans, but could I get 10? Could this year I build that to 20, 50? And knowing that those are the kinds of people that understand what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do in this world. And when I don't get the feedback that I'm looking for, when I don't get the opportunity that I was hoping for, when I don't get the milestone financially or and other markers in a startup, I can at least look back and think, yeah, but there are people that get it. And there's progress that's been made. And it's on the right path.
Totally agree. And then to not make it so that everything has to end up with you, succeeding at these things.
That's great.
That you take that pressure off of you. If I've just felt like everything I tried need to be a success. If you're kind of upbeat and have a positive outlook, and it'll make it sound like a success, but man, we could be here all afternoon. I could tell you schools I've started in other countries have utterly failed. I have convened gatherings of leaders that have been raided.
Oh my gosh.
I built a house that burned down. The dog died. The kids moved out. Like went blind in one eye. Like literally, I just don't spend a lot of time camping out there.
Right.
But those are things that have happened along the way. And so you can continue to move forward if you know your purpose. Mine, love God and love the person next to me. It wasn't my idea. It came from Jesus. It was in red. And so what I'm going to do is I know my purpose. That's what I'm going to endeavor to do. And I don't always get there, but that's the trail that I'm on. And to say, what am I going to do along the way? Let me drill down on that. What's something really practical? The person across the street, the person across the ocean, the difficult person, not the easy person. And so when then people come along, you go like, oh, wow, this is the difficult person. They're actually kind of a jerk. They're not actually kind of a jerk. They're certifiable, 100% pure jerk. And so this would be an opportunity for me to grow by not using my otherwise fast tongue to cut them in half, but then instead to be patient, to work on some immense patience, because there's a purpose behind that. What I'm trying to do is love God and love these people next to me. And what I need to do to get there is to grow, because I'm not up to the task right now. And so you start seeing these opportunities, not as setbacks because somebody's in your grill, but as an opportunity to grow, because I'm just like, to do this and then not look for applause. I was thinking, this summer, a big rainstorm came in, and I was thinking, it's not this false sense of profundity, but I was thinking the rain never asks for thanks. It makes things grow, and it just never asks for thanks. Yet it made me think, like, you know what? I'm actually looking for some validation along the way from people. That the beauty of a podcast is that you aren't getting feedback from people right away. And I'm not doing it for applause. I just want to encourage people along the way. Just like one blind man showing the other blind man where the bread is. To just say, like, I don't know, here are a couple things that we've said, yet we're incredibly purposeful. We're going to talk about what are your expectations? What's the opportunity? How do you clear the path? How do you take action on it? Expect some setbacks and sustain belief. And what we'll talk about in our next section after we get to hear from a couple really great friends, I can't wait for you guys to hear from, is landing the plane with some of these things. Sustaining belief means finding some people in your life that have actually pressed through some of these difficult things,
great.
and to ask them candidly, what were some things that you learned along the way? You're going to get to hear in this next section from Shannon Sedgwick Davis, just a force of nature, a kind and humble person. I don't know if you've heard of her or not, but she's been so influential in my life, and the things that she's accomplished behind the scenes are just immense. But she's not looking for applause. She's just looking to make a difference. She knows her purpose. She knows why she's doing what she's doing. Ian Cron, another guy that many of you have heard of, knows so much about the Enneagram, but more important than that, he knows about life. He knows he's understanding what his purpose is. He knows why he's doing what he's doing. And as you're listening, I just want you to resonate with those things and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Those are the kinds of things, the self-awareness, that will lead to greater faith and greater sense of purpose. It's Hebrews 11:1. You don't need a Bible verse for everything, but it talks about the definition of faith. It's confidence in what you're hoping for and assurance in what you haven't seen yet. If there's a definition for sustaining belief, it's that. Confidence in what you're hoping for, why you're doing what you're doing, and assurance, even though you haven't seen it, I'm going to head towards that next fall summit.
It's trust. It's a deep trust.
And so I hope that you'll find these friends that we bring along in this next section under sustaining belief. You won't want to live their story. You don't want to be Shannon, or you want to be Ian. You want to be you, and they don't want you to be them. They want you to live fully into you, to say, hey, is there anything I can do along the way? Any story I can tell that'll help give you more clarity about why you want these things that you want and what your next step forward might be.
Well, I'm thankful for these episodes. They're encouraging to me. I know they're encouraging to others. And for us to listen in on conversations that you have with your real friends, I get to watch you sustain belief through their lives, through their encouragement of you. And so you've been that for me. You've been that for so many people. And so I'm excited about this month.
As have so many people for me. You don't want to do something really practical as we wrap up this section. You go send a text message to somebody who's helped you sustain belief along the way. You just send them a note and say, I just want to thank you. You're a person that's helped me sustain my belief in these beautiful things. There's something beautiful about that. That's somebody taking action and bringing along these people with you on this adventure. There's nothing on the other side of the equal sign. You're not asking for anything. You're just saying thank you to them for what they've done in your life.
I'm going to do that. Thank you for saying that. My wife, about once a month, I get into this deep funk, tell her about all my problems. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. She listens. She's so kind. At the end of it, she always says, well, I guess we're just going to keep doing what we know to be true. At the end of every time. I'm like, and that just level sets me. What else am I going to do? She's so right. So I'm going to send her a text. Thanks.
Wouldn't that be awesome? I'll do one to Sweet Maria as well.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week, and thanks for listening in.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
No matter who you are or what your big ambitions are, everyone's going to face challenges in bringing their dreams to reality. You're going to have setbacks for sure, but even deeper than that, your struggle to see your ambitions realized is going to require that you sustain a deep conviction that you're on the right path, doing the right things for the right reasons. This month, as a part of the Dream Big podcast and the part that we're focusing on in the framework, Sustaining Belief, we created a designed guided workbook for you to download and work through your own personalized plan to sustaining belief for your dreams. Guided exercises that are going to help you create a deep foundation you're going to need to keep going. It's free and available to you in the show notes to this episode. Also, this fall, we're offering more live workshops, one at Onsite in Nashville again, and one in Atlanta, both of them in October. These are days set aside for you to invest in your big dreams in a community of other like-minded friends who are pursuing their dreams, all of that guided, of course, by Bob Goff. You could sign up for those workshops at dreambigframework.com. Sign up at dreambigframework.com.